remember the one weekend I was wearing my roommate's Movado, and the cop was like, "Oh, it's a nice watch." And I'm like, "No, Movado." And he was like, I was like, took it off, gave it to him. They let our friend go, and it's not like I could run back and be like, "Hey, Sarge, this guy did this," because we're not supposed to be there anyway.
Yeah,
so, like we knew the risks.
How much was that watch?
Probably $1,200. What have you noticed since, like, especially being in the military? How has that changed things being sober?
It's tough to say because I was never in the military when I was drinking.
Oh, okay.
You know, like I didn't join the military until 2014. I'd been sober for like 6 years by the time I joined.
Okay.
Yeah. So I think that it's tough for me to tell like what would be different. I mean, I would imagine that my organizational skills probably were better or probably are better now.
Mm-hmm.
My problem is now that my organizational skills are better and I have more bandwidth for stuff, I fill that bandwidth with other things until until I get to a place where I'm just barely functional, you know? Obviously like I was late here and stuff like that. Like I've got too much stuff that I'm trying to bite off. I'm biting off more than I can chew all the time, but I'm very overly productive in some capacities, probably just because it's like I work too much. Because I want to be able to do a lot of things. And in order to gain any type of success, you have to pour every ounce of your being into stuff, you know, especially with how saturated the internet is with think about how many people have podcasts, you know, and how many options there are for people to listen to folks talk. And, you know, not only do you have to have the content that's getting put out there, but you have to have something that's valuable for people to want to actually like listen to or take the time out of their day to listen to, whether they're driving or they're sitting at their house eating dinner or they're like relaxing with friends or something like that. Like if I'm making podcasts that aren't really valuable to people, or I'm not like talking to other folks that folks might find interesting, you know, probably gonna be hard pressed to grow, you know. It's a very competitive environment just doing the social stuff in general, especially podcasting, just because everybody's got one, like I said. But I would say, you know, if we go all the way back to when I like got rid of everything, like the biggest thing that it's helped me with is like being capable of taking accurate self-appraisals. Okay. Taking personal inventories, you know, being honest with yourself, I think has been much easier after dropping all that stuff, because, you know, when you wake up every morning and you're, you know, clear-headed, sober throughout the whole day and like the years pass, it gets harder for you to lie to yourself. And it gets harder for you to, you know, BS yourself. Whereas like if you're out there slinging beers every day or whatever it is that you're doing, you know, like it's probably a little bit easier for you to lie to yourself about stuff.
Absolutely.
And folks that do drink, that have a problem, that see other people that had a problem and stopped drinking, they feel very uncomfortable with those people sometimes. So I typically don't even tell anybody. Haven't ever told anybody. I mean, I've told a lot of people. I mean, I don't really talk about it that much. It's just a part of my life now. It's a very broad spectrum of folks dealing with this stuff, and it's a very human issue. I wouldn't even say it's like a military thing, although military drinking and military is very, very popular.
Culture.
It's part of the culture, in a lot of ways. Because like, you know, you're hanging out with your boys, you're going out in town, you're you know, you're partying on the weekends, you have warrior nights where there's beers at the warrior nights, like, you know, you have mess nights or dine-ins, like some of you guys call it. You know, a lot of our balls have booze involved. And so it's like kind of a tradition. I mean, the Marine Corps is born in a bar, you know what I mean? So it's like, it's kind of like part of the culture, part of the traditions. Right. I've gotten by fine without drinking the entire time I've been in, no matter what, which wasn't like, you know, really a challenge for me, because it's like, I look at it the same way I look at like rat poison for me now, because it's just not something that has done anything positive for me in my life. Didn't do anything positive for me at all. So I'm sure some people might feel differently about it, and that's fine. You know, everybody's got their own flavor, but I can definitively say and it's not for everybody. You know, you got to walk your own path. You know what I mean? I can definitively say that while I still have an enormous amount of stress because of like a lot of other things going on in my life, that I would say the quality of my life today, as opposed to it was in like 2008, is night and day. It's unrecognizable. Not night and day difference in regards to like, you know, level of peace. And even today, sometimes I forget that because I get all caught up with like a million things that I have going on. And I forget that I'm in a good spot. Like, I'm not in a bad spot. There could be things that are improved, right? But relatively speaking, like, if I needed to, you know, get work done on my car because it was an emergency, I could afford to do that. You know, if I had to go to the hospital and I had to pay out of pocket for an emergency, I could afford to do that. I can buy groceries. I can pay for gas. I can pay for my bills. I'm not overdrafting on anything. I'm not delinquent on any debt. You know, I can remember for the most part what I did, you know, yesterday and what I'm going to be doing tomorrow. There's a lot of problems that were caused or that happened that I dealt with a lot prior to 2008 that I don't have to deal with now. Not to say that I don't have problems. I have plenty of issues and problems and friction and challenges. They're just different.
And it's interesting you say that because like I literally was the opposite of everything you just listed. And I don't know if it's because I went in at 18. I drank prior, but once I got in there and I knew I could drink there, our barracks parties were crazy, like literally nuts. And I loved every minute of it. And I would go negative in my bank accounts. In between pay periods, we'd be so broke. We even would go down to Juarez. We called it J-Town, even though technically we weren't allowed to. There was a bar called Tequila Derby, and it was amazing. It was $10 drink and drown. So for a poor private, I mean, that's a haven.
Drink and drown, what does that mean?
So when you pay to get in, you drink all night off that $10. It's drink and drown. You don't have to pay for each drink. You just go back up to the bar. It was all well stuff.
That's
it was all
dangerous.
Crap. They would have pony bottles of Corona. You could get these mixed drinks in a styrofoam cup, but we went so often that we would have glass cups. So then the ladies like, ooh, who are these guys with their special cups? And like, so we could pull all sorts of girls. Like we just, every weekend was an adventure. But then on the way back, that's when you have trouble because 2 a.m. everyone's walking back stateside and we stick out like a sore thumb. We all had the high and tights with a tan line right here.
Yeah.
And you could tell we were soldiers. So the local federales would like, they would always be walking the opposite direction. As we're all walking back towards the Rio Grande, they'd be walking this way. And they would just grab one of you and keep walking. And you're like, whoa, 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 what are you doing? And they're like, dinero, dinero. And you're like, crap. And the end of the night, we have nothing. So we're like, man, I got nothing. I remember the one weekend I was wearing my roommate's Movado. And the cop was like, oh, it's a nice watch. And I'm like, no, Movado. And he was like, I was like, I took it off, gave it to him. They let our friend go. And it's not like I could run back and be like, hey, Sarge, this guy did this. Because we're not supposed to be there anyway.
Yeah.
So like we knew the risks.
How much was that watch?
Probably $1,200.
$1,200.
Yes.
Oh,
dude, he was
no.
pissed. But like, what do you do?
Was it your buddy's watch?
Yeah, and he was with me. So he like watched me hand it to the
he-
cop. Yeah.
Oh, no.
And
Why
it
were you
killed
wearing
me.
it?
Because he let me, because I couldn't afford one. So I had to wear
Oh,
his.
man. He must have been so
Dude, he was
butthurt.
heated. Yeah, very upset.
Oh, my
Yeah.
God, dude.
And the fights and like, dude. But again, it was like, it was a badge of honor to go through that stuff when I was in there. Dude, we would have barracks parties where we would play Edward 40 hands. You ever do that?
Yeah.
You tape the 40s.
You tape your 40s and you can't untape them until the
Until they're
40s are
done.
empty.
Yeah,
Which
exactly.
a 40 is like 3 beers.
It is.
Right.
And it's higher content. We would drink something called
Malt liquor usually.
Yeah,
Like,
King Cobras.
Yeah,
and,
King
and their
Cobras.
slogan was "Don't let the smooth taste fool you." But they were only $1.25 at the
Yeah,
class 6, and
dirt cheap.
they had the wide mouth. But like
Yeah.
they stopped making the wide mouth. I think too many people died. But when we were in, they had the wide mouth.
Crazy.
Dude, it was crazy. We had a good time.
Well, they had like the old English 40s and then Colt 45, obviously that famous 40,
Yeah.
2 zigzags, all that. What else did they have? There was another one.
Steel Reserve.
Yeah, Steel Reserve was another
That's
really
harsh.
popular one.
Yeah,
It's harsh, yeah. It was all like that, dirt poor
Yeah.
you know, stuff. But
On
I mean,
private salary, you only have $5. You could buy a couple 40s.
yeah, that's true. And then you have a good time or have a good night or whatever. But yeah, it's, you know, a lot, you know, what's funny is like my experience as a young junior enlisted dude was very different probably from a lot of people, just because like I was already 27 years old when I got in. Right. So like my partying days were like 7 years behind me by that point. Gotcha. You know, I was over it. I was already like, I mean, I quit drinking when I turned 21, which is kind of funny, 6 years prior to joining. So like, just really wild to think about. It's like time has flown by. Yeah. I'm almost 40.
Yeah. I turned really 44 weird. Yesterday.
Did you?
It's crazy. Yeah.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
Happy birthday.
I'm feeling good, looking good.
Feeling good, looking good. That's all that matters, man. You know, it was weird. Like because I didn't drink, like, but all my friends drank. Like I would still go out with them to the clubs. Cause like at the time I was single. I'm not single anymore, but at the time I was. And, I'm still interested in picking up chicks just like everybody else is, you know what I mean? When you're single and, you know, even if you're not drinking. And so I would go out with my buddies to the bars and we try to like pick up chicks. We try to like, you know, make friends out there, local friends, and go out and get dinner, like spend time with your friends out downtown. But I always ended up playing the role of like dad and like taking care of people was what ended up happening for the most part, because I was the only person not drinking and I drove. So I could drive us back. Yeah. Yep. So I pretty much DD'd like every weekend when I was going out with guys. Gotcha. You know, which I'd had no problem with that because like a lot of my friends, I've picked up a lot of my friends while they were completely blacked out on benches in the middle of like Waikiki, and they didn't know how they got there. And like, fortunately, their one friend that was sober enough to remember what was going on could call me to be like, dude, can you please come get us? Like, an Uber is not going to take us back to base with Miles blacked out or whoever it was that's blacked out at the time or whatever. And a lot of them probably don't even remember a lot of these things. One time I actually, funny enough, one time we picked up, I had 5 people in my car, 1 in the front seat, 3 in the back. And we had one guy that was like riding on someone's lap in the back, which is illegal. You can't do that. Obviously, like I haven't done that since then, but like, you know, we were trying to go through the front gate. Can't go through the front gate like that. Right. I stopped the car just before the front gate, like around a bend, hoping they wouldn't see me. And I had my buddy jump in the trunk. Oh shit. Yeah. Just so that way we only had 3 people in the back and they all had a seatbelt on. Yeah. We drove up to the gate and he said,
pop the trunk.
He said, I'm going to ask you a question. Do you have somebody in your trunk? And I said, yes, sir, I do. I told him the truth. Good. And he's like, okay, can you pop the trunk and tell him to get out? I said, yes, I can. And I popped it. Obviously he'd been drinking, so he shouldn't have been driving. And I was trying to pick all my friends up. And he's like, I need you to walk to the barracks. You can't ride with them back to the barracks. And so they let him walk on base. He showed them their ID. And then everybody else showed their ID, and then we all got on base. He said, because you told me the truth, I'm not going to give you a ticket. Nice. But if I see you do that again, I'm going to have to give you a ticket. I was like,
thank you.
I appreciate you, and it won't happen again. And I never did it again after that. But that was how far I was willing to go to like help my friends like get home safely and stuff, because like, you know, there's a lot of weird stuff that happens. I'm sure that there's a lot of people that have bad things happen to them. And that's part of like the deal is you take care of your team, you know, absolutely take care of your teammates. And obviously I don't do any of that anymore. I don't go out at all anymore. I have no interest in going to clubs. I'm good. I'm married now. So it's like, I don't have any, there's literally no reason. I don't drink. I'm not looking for girls. Like unless we're going out to celebrate a special event or something like that, which would be one thing. That's fine. But I probably still wouldn't go out to a bar unless like my wife was with me probably, just because that'd be weird in my mind.